Hello and welcome to the Vulnerable Podcast, a mental health podcast from Boy Voice Actors where we prove that vulnerability is something to be proud of. My name is Kennedy HIBBERT. I'm a voice actor. I'm a mental health advocate, and I'm excited to have you here with us today. You know, sometimes with mental health we can hide behind things. We can hide parts of ourselves.
You're doing great.
But that's okay, because we're here to be an open book. We're here to share what's behind our cool facades into the ugliest parts of ourselves. Okay, the bit's over.
I love it.
For any of our friends who are listening to this podcast and not watching it, I had a pair of sunglasses on my face. No, this is not an ASMR podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, I will never do that ever again.
I liked it.
Thank you, Jenny. I'm so excited. Okay, hi friends, my name is Kennedy. You heard the spiel. Welcome to The Vulnerable. We're going to get right into it with the vulnerability of the week. What is the vulnerability of the week? It's where I go first before our guest, who I'm really excited to introduce, and just share something that makes me really uncomfortable to share. It's really hard. Okay, I gave it some thought, and this week I'm going to talk about my birthday. I had a birthday party like 2 weeks ago. I turned 22. It was really fun. And the reason I'm going to bring it up is because for the very first time in the last few months, I started to show parts of myself to my friends that I had never done before. And those parts of myself were the really nerdy parts. I have a huge obsession with video games and shows and cartoons and all that stuff. But because I'm a voice actor in the industry, I felt a need to hide that away. So I would not talk about any of that stuff. But you know what? When I started this podcast, I decided to try and just see what would happen if I actually very vulnerably expressed myself and my interests and my passion for my interests. And what happened was more than I could ever believe. One of those things is Bucky Barnes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I went to go see Thunderbolts. Oh, okay, Jenny, I was going to introduce you later, but I feel like you're relevant to this conversation. So that's how, like, for example, me and Jenny have been bonding because you love Bucky Barnes almost as much as I do.
I love Bucky Barnes, yes, but I think my baby girl is Bob.
Oh, Bob.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Point is, I actually strengthened a lot of my friendships by sharing these really nerdy parts of myself. And going back to my birthday, I had people bring me gifts, and I'll pop the images up on the screen. Bring me gifts of, like, those things. Like, someone brought me, like, a Bucky shirt with, like, a heart on it, and a Thunderbolts shirt, and, like, a Final Fantasy poster, and I put little Final Fantasy figures on my cake, and I just brought down, like, from my room, like, all the things that are nerdy about me and weird, and, like, I was hiding for so long. But the response was just so strong, and my relationships were strengthened. And so I wanted to share that because I did not expect that to happen. And, you know, sharing that part of myself was like the scariest thing for so long. I thought I wouldn't be accepted, both personally and professionally. But it's just been amazing. So that is my vulnerability of the week. And with that, we are able to get into our episode of The Vulnerable. That was good, right?
Yeah, it was so good. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Well, let's introduce you, my love. Hi, everyone. You saw already. We have Jenny Yokobori in the stew. Hey, Jenny, how are you today?
I'm doing okay.
Amazing.
I'm happy to be here with you.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you here with me. Okay, you are in a lot of stuff. You're an amazing voice actor with such a wonderful career. I don't even remember your credits. If you want to help me out, you are.
I'm in Genshin. I'm Yoimiya in Genshin Impact. I'm Evie in Fortnite, Kumiko, and a whole other legion of characters on The Simpsons. I've been on that show for about 5 years now. I voice Kuromi and Cinnamoroll in Hello Kitty and Friends Super Cute Adventures. Shuei in Honkai Star Rail.
That's okay. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
Oh my God.
No, so many. I can't even think of all of them. I love it. Well, I just know you as my friend Jenny.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to chat with you. We were talking about it a little bit before we recorded. We've ran into each other a few times, but we've never actually gotten to just, like, sit down and chat about life. So just, like, tell me about yourself. Like, where did you come from? Like,
where the hell are you? Where'd you come from? Where the hell are you? Who the hell are you?
Who the hell are you?
Who the hell are you?
Jenny, who the hell are you?
I grew up in Vegas. Yeah.
What was that like?
Weird.
Oh,
Vegas,
I can imagine.
Vegas is a weird place. I think all the sand does things to people's brains, including my own. It was a wild town to grow up in. But yeah, I grew up in Vegas. I was definitely like kind of like an outsider. It was a predominantly like white town and like very religious town. And then there was me. And I was just sort of like, hi, I'm Asian and not very religious. And they're like, we don't know what to do with you. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll like Percy Jackson then.
No way.
I guess
That's a great way to cope.
Pokemon is my escape then, gotcha. And so like I'm also very, very nerdy. And so I'm so glad that you opened up about being nerdy because I think nerdiness and fandom in general is such a wonderful way to connect to each other. It's because it's like when we're able to like really truly just love something so deeply and find other people who share that same love with us, I think it's such a beautiful form of connection.
And we can make like such a community out of it too, right? I mean, I feel like that's all our little big circle of like voice actors is right now. It's just a bunch of nerdy people who came here because they wanted to and because they hyperfixate on their favorite shows and we're just all crazy.
It's great, yeah. But I grew up in Vegas, big nerd, very much an outsider, had a few very close friends. Then in high school, I went to performing arts high school in downtown Las Vegas. So like maybe like a block away from Fremont Street. If you've ever been there, it's insane. Yeah, it's a crazy place.
It's a crazy place to go to high school.
Insane. And it's like a very strange environment to grow up in, but I loved it. And I feel like it made me very strong because it's either like, either you adapt and survive and get stronger or you don't do so well. And luckily, I think I did the former. But yeah, it would just be like, normal day in school. We'd be like sitting in algebra class and they're like, oh, we have to hard lockdown. There's someone on campus with a knife. And we're like, okay, that's fine.
Oh my gosh.
Go under our desks. We're like, that's Vegas for you.
That's Vegas, baby.
Did you memorize your monologue yet? Yeah, me either.
Just like under the desks.
Exactly.
Like,
just be like this. And we're just like, okay, we're just waiting. We're just like, it's better than learning equations, I guess. Anything better than that. But yeah, so that's where I grew up. I had a weird childhood too. This is like also, it's time to talk about it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So my dad got diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's when I was 4 years old and so I never really knew my dad. I knew him as like this very sweet man who lived with me, but he was never really a father figure to me because as far back as I can remember, I always kind of had to take on the caretaker role, so our roles were kind of like reversed.
Do you have any siblings? Like, are you the oldest?
I have half siblings. But none of them ever lived with me. So I very much like grew up an only child despite having like biological siblings. But like from when I was like a baby to when I was 18, it was just me in the house.
Wow.
And so it fell on my shoulders. My mom had to start working full time and like I was home with my dad pretty much like as much as humanly possible, taking care of him or translating or just like helping him like interact with the world a little bit. Even when he was a little bit better, the Alzheimer's had already kind of progressed to a point where like he had a hard time relating to the world and get really frustrated and kind of angry at people. And like as a little baby 4-year-old, I would have to be like, I'm really sorry, my dad has Alzheimer's, or like he doesn't understand English that well. Like I'd try to explain to people. And so, yeah, interesting way to grow up.
And you said you were 4 when this all started?
I believe I was around 4. So
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about like early child development and I mean, how do you think that has like impacted how you've grown up to be?
Oh, it's impacted like every single area of my life. Like it's so I very much tend to be like someone who like always will reach out to people and like offer help or like try to be of service any way that I possibly can, because that's kind of like that's how my entire like life was.
Yeah.
Whereas like my mom wasn't really home. She was out working and trying to provide for like me and my dad. And so instead I had to make myself like of service. I had to like help my dad out and like I had to kind of anticipate his needs because he would get kind of like volatile sometimes where like out of nowhere if I didn't anticipate what was going to like set him off or like any need that he might have because he had trouble communicating after a while, where it's like he eventually lost a lot of the like language inside of his brain. So when I was about 13 or so, he forgot how to speak English.
Wow.
And then when I was like in high school, so probably about 15, he kind of just stopped talking altogether for the most part. Like he was kind of more like a baby. And so he couldn't really tell us if he was hungry. And then also people with Alzheimer's and dementia, they don't usually know if they're hungry or thirsty. And so they often like become malnourished because they just don't understand their needs.
So not only were you providing for like the emotional needs, but also like the very physical, very biological needs as well.
Where I was like, I had to make sure my dad was fed. I had to make sure he was drinking enough water. And then I had to convince him to eat and drink water because sometimes he just didn't want to because he was like, you know, a baby.
Yeah.
Or he was like, he would rather do something else. Like he'd rather go like fiddle with the stove or like watch TV or something. And I would be like, no, you have to drink water. You have to do this. And then it was also like sometimes he would walk around and he would like get stuff all over his shirt. And so he'd be walking around with like a dirty shirt. And I'd have to be like, hey, we have to change your shirt now. And he would get very fussy sometimes. And so it was like that has very much impacted me to who I am now, where it's like I'm very much someone who tends to like anticipate other people's needs or like think ahead. Like I can sometimes be the mom friend where if like we're out and about and someone's just sort of like, oh man, I'm feeling hungry. I'm like, oh, don't worry, I brought protein bars. I'm like, don't even worry about it. Like I anticipated this.
Yeah, you're still the caretaker role.
Yes.
Wow.
Which is something that I work on in therapy because my therapist, my psychiatrist have you know, been helping me reassess and be like, I don't have to take on that role anymore. Like that's not something that is required of me, that I can just show up and be myself and I don't have to like provide for other people in order to be like a valid person. I can just be myself.
Absolutely. Do you take that experience to be like part of who you are, or is it something that you're like working actively to overcome, do you think?
I think it's a little bit column A, a little bit column B, honestly.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, like with any kind of big event in your life where there were a lot of lessons that I took away from it. I think it made me a very empathetic person and a very patient person as well, where it's like there were some times where like my dad would act out and it would scare the living hell out of me or my mom, and like we would be in public, like sometimes we would be out at a show together and my dad, he didn't know what was going on, and so sometimes he would just like scream even though we were like seeing a show. And it was like, you know, during times like that, it's very easy to get frustrated and be like, why are you doing this? Like, you're making my life harder.
Yeah.
But it's like, it made me take those extra steps back and like have to like pause and be like, okay, is he acting this way to hurt me? No, of course not. He's doing this because he doesn't know what's going on and because he's probably scared or because he's probably feeling overstimulated. So it's like, it's made me a very empathetic person, I think, where it's like if someone does something that annoys me, I can kind of like
problem solve, almost like go into it. Why is this happening?
Exactly.
And see almost like the good in it.
Yeah,
and
where it's
really
like,
try to validate what everybody's doing.
Exactly, where I'm like, okay, this annoyed me, but where could it be coming from them? Like maybe they're having a really hard day, or maybe like I know this about them and their past, and so maybe this is like kind of a result of like some past trauma of theirs, and like it's kind of lashing out. Where it's like it's a blessing and a curse, I think, because sometimes I can over justify.
Absolutely. I was going to say, oh, that could get you hurt sometimes too,
Absolutely.
Huh?
Oh, absolutely it can. And it has gotten me hurt in the past where it's like, if I'm kind of being treated very callously by people, then I can kind of like justify it in my brain. Well, I'm like, well, it's because of this, what's happening with them. And like this is why they're acting this way. And then it's taken a lot of therapy for them to be like, that's true. But that doesn't justify them mistreating you.
Yeah, there is a very fine line between like putting yourself in other people's shoes and empathizing with them, but also like, you know, making sure that the barriers around yourself are strong and that you're not breaking them down for the sake of other people.
Yeah, in the sake of empathy.
Yeah.
Which like, of course, in the case of my dad, that's understandable. Like he couldn't control that.
Of course, like, and that is attributed so much to the chronic illness, right?
Yeah.
Neither of my parents had Alzheimer's, but I do know what it's like to have a parent with chronic illness. My mom got diagnosed with breast cancer when I was in my teenage years, and I know it's nothing the same, but I understand what that's like to feel alienated in your own home almost, right?
It is, where it's like, I don't know, when you're younger too, I don't know if this was your experience, but like there's so often it seems like when you are kind of like younger, it seems like a lot of kind of adults trying to like shield you almost from things, which there really is no way to shield someone from what's going on. It's like eventually it's going to come through, and so it's kind of better to face it head on and just kind of face it. But at the same time, it is really hard seeing someone who you're supposed to look up to, and they're, you know, your parent, your mom or your dad, and seeing them so fragile.
Yeah.
And having to kind of like reckon with that is really hard as a kid.
Absolutely. I think I actually had the opposite thing happen to me because my mom's mom also went through breast cancer, and she did exactly what you mentioned of the shielding, which is what my mom became accustomed to, and she didn't like it. She didn't like not knowing what was going on.
Yeah.
So for me, it was very open. It was very open of here's what's going on. Although I think that was equally as terrifying for me as like a 16-year-old. I was terrified to know everything that was happening. And I think I probably still would prefer that method rather than like the shielding. But both of us being so young, it has such an impact. And the caretaking part too, I still feel that. I had a younger sister, or had, oh my gosh, she's still alive. I have a younger sister. And she's 4 years younger than me. Very similar thing where when my mom got sick, my dad was out of the house a lot of the time. Yeah. And that left me to not care for my mom as much, but for my sister. Yeah. So all that to say, I empathize so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, I'd like to go back to talk a little bit more about the shielding and what that really did for you. I mean, you saw my little sunglasses bit earlier today, but we do hide a lot of our vulnerabilities, and we do hide a lot of stuff for the sake of ourselves and for the sake of others. So I'm curious, when your family did that to you, how did you take that?
It felt kind of patronizing, honestly, because I think it came from a place of genuine concern and care. My mom is a very, very sweet woman. And I think her whole thing was that she wanted to protect like my innocence as much as possible, and she didn't want to burden me with it. But the fact of the matter is that I was living in the house and there were only 3 of us there. And so there was no way for me to not see what was happening. And it was also like, I saw the way my dad was treating me. I saw the way my dad was interacting with the world. I saw the way my dad would treat my mom and treat himself, where he would just like kind of like hole himself away. And I would like hear them arguing too. And so I knew something was going on, and I knew my dad was sick because I would hear them talk about it, but I didn't know how bad it was. And my mom was kind of trying to protect me from that, where she was like, oh, well, dad's sick. And I was like, I would like to know more about it. Like I knew he had Alzheimer's and things like that. And so finally I begged my mom to take me with them to the doctor. My dad had a brain doctor where they would go and discuss his, like, the progression of his Alzheimer's, dementia. Right. And so I was like, I want to go with you next time, and I want to ask my questions.
How old were you at this point?
I had to be like 10.
Only 10?
I want to say 10, maybe 9, something like that. And I was just like, I need to go. This is something I need to do. My mom was like, I don't think that's a good idea. And I was like, no, I want this. And I was sitting there, and I remember like his name was Dr. No. Shout out Dr. No.
Shout out.
And I was like, I would like to ask questions now. And he's like, okay. And I said, I remember asking, will my dad ever get better? And I knew the answer. And he says, no. And I said, okay, how bad is it going to be? And he said, straight to my face. And like, I really appreciate his honesty, honestly. It's going to sound very brutal. But he looked at me, and I was like a little tiny baby. And he was like, it's going to get worse than you could ever imagine. And I remember just like kind of like sitting there, and I was like, okay. And I don't know, it felt good to be treated like a grown-up. It felt good to know the truth. And I felt like I was able to better prepare myself in that case, where I was able to kind of like, I had known that for a long time, but to actually hear it verbalized by like a medical professional. Yeah.
And I like what you said about like, just what you're saying about it felt good to be treated like an adult.
Yeah.
Even though you were 10 years old. Yeah. What I see is that you were put into a very adult problem and treated like a kid, and that's what was the problem.
Yeah, where it was like, I was already, whether they wanted it to be the case or not, I was being put into the place of an adult. I was a grown-up from a very, very young age. And so for them to be having the, like, duality of feeling like a grown-up and being in a very grown-up position to then being treated like I couldn't handle the truth felt incredibly patronizing and very frustrating, where it was like I could operate so much better and I could do better for myself and do better for my family if I know the full story.
Do you think there was a part of you that also felt like you deserved that?
Absolutely.
Because you worked so hard in the house.
I was working so hard, and I was like working so hard to keep my head above water that I thought the least they could do was treat me like an equal.
Mm-hmm.
That it was really, really just baffling to me, where I would be like, you know, I would see my dad having these breakdowns, and I would see him forgetting how to, like, he would drive me to school and he would get lost. My school was 5 minutes from our house, and we would be driving for over an hour, and we would be taking all these turns, and I would see my dad getting visibly frustrated and scared, and which would in turn make me scared, and then for them to pretend like it wasn't happening. Where I'm like, no, this is affecting me. Like, I'm living in this. Like, this is my reality too. Like, we can't pretend like this isn't going on. Like, I need to know the full scope of the situation so I can, like, you know, approach this in a way that's healthy. And it was just, yeah, it was just like they kept putting me at the kids' table when I was like, no, I'm sitting at the kids' table, but you served me a full meal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back to the doctor tells you it's going to get worse than you can possibly imagine. And you say, okay.
Yeah.
So what happens after that?
I mean, my mom broke down crying. And so I was like, is it okay if I talk to him, just us? Like, I want to just talk to the doctor. And she was like, yeah. And I think she just felt bad that I didn't feel bad. Because I think that kind of was kind of a wake-up call to her where it's like, oh, she's known for a while. Like, that innocence that I was protecting has not been here for a while, where I was like, yeah, no.
It might not have ever been there.
Exactly.
If you said that you've been dealing with this since you were 4,
yeah,
I think it's almost a little bit silly to think that there was any innocence to protect.
And so I think that was just kind of like, I think that was a rude awakening for her, where she was trying so hard to protect me, and I was like, no, it's been too late.
What was your relationship with her during this time, before and after?
My mom and I still talk to this day.
Good.
Me and my mom were very close growing up because, I mean, like, we were in the trenches together.
Oh, yeah.
We were in the
war
trenches.
Hats on.
Exactly. But it was always hard. And because, again, she felt a lot of guilt, I think, because of the circumstances that I was kind of born into. And that she wasn't really around to kind of, like, take care of me. And, like, she still talks to this day about how she wishes she could have, like, shielded me from things, which is really unfair for her to put on herself, because that's an impossibility. And I absolutely understand and empathize with the sentiment that she, you know, is in the parental figure role. And, you know, parents often want to, like, protect their kids from the harshness of the world. But it is kind of like an unfair reality that, like, it's a non-starter. Yeah, absolutely. There is no protecting us from the harshness of the world. Like, it'll come to us eventually. And unfortunately for me, it just happens sooner. But, like, I never resented her for that. I knew even then it wasn't her fault. But she was there for me as much as she could. It was always good to have someone who understood to an extent. And, like, it's interesting because we're able to talk about stories now where it's like from an outside perspective, people would be like, oh my God. But to us, like, we're able to, like, you know, find humor in them and laugh. Like, just trying to take my dad to Disneyland during one of his last few years alive, and just, like, how overstimulated he was from it, and that he kept stealing things on accident because he just didn't know. Yeah. And so he was very much a little kid in a lot of ways. And so he was, like, walking around Disneyland, and he was having, like, a really great time with my mom. It was my high school graduation trip. So I had, like, split off with my best friend, and I came back and my dad was wearing, like, this bright pink baseball cap. And I was like, oh, looks like Norio got a souvenir. My mom's like, yeah, he did. And I was like, what happened? And she was like, well, we went into a store and he saw the hat and he got excited and he put it on, and then he walked out of the store and refused to come back, and he won't give it back. So I had to pay for it. And I was like, oh, so he did steal it. And she was like, yeah, but we paid for it. I'm like, okay, good. We did steal it. We did not steal it. Hey, Disney, we paid for it. Okay.
This never happened.
We paid for it. It was paid for.
We'll find the receipt somewhere.
But yeah, it was paid for. It was stolen on accident, but it was fixed immediately.
The wrongs were righted.
But yeah, it's like things like that where it's like, it is very sad and it's tragic that my dad had no idea what was going on and that he was that out of it. But it was like, you know, it's that thing where you have to laugh at it eventually, where it's like, it was stressful, but at the time it's like, you know, there are bright moments like that, even in the midst of am I allowed to curse?
Yeah.
Even in the midst of a shitstorm, there are still like little like silver linings like that where it's like, even my dad, even though he didn't really know what was going on, like, because I was like standing there and like she told me this story and I just started laughing. And so he started laughing and he was like, ha ha ha. And he didn't know what I was laughing at.
Oh, what a
but
sweet
he was
memory.
But he was just excited to laugh.
Yeah.
But
I like that. And
like that,
especially in times like that, like those little moments, like you have to hang on to, right?
Mm-hmm.
With so much darkness, that little bit of light is so important. I think that there could potentially be a lot of people listening right now that also have dealt with or are dealing with parents with chronic illness.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would say to yourself, either as a 4-year-old or a 10-year-old in the doctor's office?
I think the thing I would want to tell her most is that she's going to get through it. Because there were so many times throughout my childhood that I would just kind of like sit in my room and it felt like, you know, the darkness was closing in on me. And it just felt like this little like pinprick of light where like everything around it was just so dark and so scary. And it almost felt like suffocating. And from like how overwhelming it was, that I just want to like go back in time and like touch my younger self on the back and be like, hey, you're going to get through this. Mm-hmm. It's going to be really hard and it's going to hurt. But there's another side to this. Like, you're going to come out the other side and there's more to life than just this moment. And I think that's what I really could have used to hear.
Yeah.
Because so often when I was growing up, it just felt like that was it. Where it was like I was going to be stuck in my room forever and I was going to be scared and feeling alone and without a friend who could really understand it and without like anywhere to kind of like turn to. And so I just think hearing that there was, you know, a way out mm-hmm. where I would be able to come out the other side of it and like, you know, have a fulfilling career and supportive friends and a life outside of that reality would have been really helpful to hear.
Yeah. And that's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we can say that to little Jenny, and we can say that to the people out there right now that are dealing with that, mm-hmm. is you will absolutely get through it. Yeah. It will not be easy. So let's talk about getting through it. What are the things that really helped you through that time? Whether it's Pokemon, if you want to talk about that, or if you had any support system or connection or lack of support system. Tell me about how you got to the end of the tunnel.
It was hard. My school guidance counselor helped me a lot, where there were a lot of days in class where I was just feeling so overwhelmed where I had to be like, I have to go to the guidance counselor and just kind of like sit in her office and talk about what was going on mm-hmm. at home. And like, she was a wonderful woman. Her name was Miss Flores. I'm eternally grateful for her. There was so often where like I would just kind of like sit in her office and cry. And like, she didn't understand. Like, she had no idea what it was like growing up with a dad who would forget who I was and a mom who was just like not around because she was working her ass off to try and make ends meet. But like, she would just like kind of sit and listen. And I think that was just a very powerful tool at that time.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, where like it just felt good to not be alone in those feelings. So that helps immensely.
And I love that. Even just listening, which is something that doesn't take as much effort as other things, can mm-hmm. just be so powerful mm-hmm. for you to get that, and even like to back out, to offer that to other people too. Mm-hmm. I think that's really amazing. The power of listening. Okay, continue.
It really is, because it's like you don't have, the thing that I often try and like, when I am like trying to comfort friends and everything, it's very often that they are going through something that I have never experienced before. And I try to just sort of be there for them in whatever capacity I can, where it's like, I don't know what this feeling is like, mm-hmm. but I will be here for you, so you don't have to be alone in these feelings, at least.
Exactly. Do you think that guidance counselor was like, because I assume you weren't talking about this with your immediate family, was that the person that was your listener for many of these things?
Her and my therapist too.
Your therapist.
Yeah, when I was my mom is a social worker.
Oh wow.
And so
mine was a psychologist.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So pretty much, as like, I think I started therapy when I was 10 or 11 or something like that, and so I think she knew that I needed to be equipped with tools in order to carry this load. And so I spent a lot of time in therapy, a lot of time in my school guidance counselor. Those were kind of like the places where I was able to really like get this out, because like it's not like I could talk to my friends about it. They had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
And like they shouldn't have. Like they were 10 and 11. Like they're not emotionally equipped to handle that kind of load.
That's true. That's true. I'm sorry that you felt, isolated from them though. What I see is that you relied so much on adults and rarely have we heard anything about any people that are your age in this story.
It was very hard. It wasn't until high school that I kind of found people who I had an ability to really like communicate with on a deeper level. In my last year of middle school, I did find some really close friends who I'm still close with. My friends Maya and Wendy.
Shout out to Maya and Wendy.
Yeah. Where it's like we were able to like be on the phone and talk about things. But like even then, like I don't think I talked too much about what was happening with my dad and my mom. It was like we were able to focus on other things. Like we were able to talk like about boys and things like that.
Oh, so fun.
Which was always like, I think that was a welcome distraction too.
Yeah.
Just like, fun little distractions that kind of reminded me that I was a kid.
Yeah.
Or whether it was like having a crush on a boy or like going online and watching a lot of comedy videos.
Yeah.
That was a huge escape for me too.
Yeah, and feel free to like really go into that. Escapism is something that I was talking about earlier how I used to hide like my nerdy stuff, but it's like it is so integral sometimes, and it does tether us to this world sometimes.
They are load-bearing pillars of my personality.
Yeah.
The things that I was able to like find comfort in back then integral is a great word, where it's just like, I would not have made it through that without something to look towards the light amidst all of that other stuff going on.
Exactly.
Back then, I was upset. I mean, Pokemon has been there for me since I was a baby. Like one of my first memories is sitting in front of like my family's CRT TV and seeing Pokemon for the first time and being like, oh, my brain's different now. Like I just remember like feeling like wires and neurons like getting crossed over and like getting rewired, where I'm like, oh, things have changed. Things are different. So it was that. Cartoons were always a huge source of comfort for me too. Like I would sit in front of Cartoon Network and Disney Channel and Nickelodeon for just like hours, just like eyes glued to the TV. Because one, it was easier than facing what was going on around me, but also just because like, I don't know, I just felt so deep into it, which is definitely, it was like light foreshadowing what my career would eventually become.
I was going to ask about that too.
Oh yeah.
But heck yeah.
Where, so it was that, it was, Pokemon. I would do a lot of like playing pretend as a kid too, especially as an only child. I would have to like kind of like make up my own little fantasy worlds, and I would like LARP, for lack of a better sense.
Let's go. Hell yeah.
I would like LARP in my own home, because my dad would be like, when I was really younger, my dad would just kind of like hole himself off in his office and just kind of be like, I need to protect, like he would kind of like werewolf himself, or he's like, I need to protect my daughter from me. And so he would just kind of like sit in his office and stuck to his computer, and I would kind of like left to my own devices. So I'd like run around my backyard, and I would make something a sword, or I would like play Teen Titans by myself, and I would like hop from like couch cushion to couch cushion being like, I'm training for the Titans.
That is so awesome.
So I found a lot of comfort in superheroes and
that.
superhero programs. And also the internet, which was, I'm so glad that the internet was a little bit safer back when we were growing up, because I was able to find a few safe spaces that felt really comforting for me. Probably some things that were definitely inappropriate, but not like as
hey, we cope in our own way.
Not as like bad as it could have been. Like it could have been a lot worse. Yeah. My favorite thing growing up that I was like wholeheartedly obsessed with was college humor.
Oh, yes. That was like just before my time.
Fully obsessed with college humor.
I love it.
From like 5th grade all the way up until like I graduated high school, where like I would run home, I would watch whatever new sketches had been released in College Humor, and like read whatever listicles they had, read whatever articles they had, like read all the comics that they had. Like I would just like consume I would consume comedy the way Kirby consumes things, just like anything and everything. And then I would like rewatch like SNL reruns, things like that. I would stay up late and watch like The Late Show and things like that.
Yeah.
Any of the like late night talk shows, I would watch Adult Swim, and I would stay up until like 1 a.m. on a school night just watching like Family Guy, Futurama, Simpsons, Robot Chicken, anything and everything. Like comedy was such a huge source of comfort for me, where like if I was able to laugh, then it was able to take a little bit of the weight off.
I love this. I love this so much because I can just see it and hear it just in you, just how much all of those things just like fill your soul and you're just like lighting up right now.
I love it so much. Like college humor, like, and then a lot of YouTube stuff too. Like, I mean, this is definitely before your time, but
I'm a baby.
Ryan Higa's sketches.
Oh,
do you know Ryan Higa?
Yes,
Ryan Higa. Loved him growing up. Smosh too. Ian and Anthony back during like the really old school days. I would like same thing. I would just like go to like the old school Smosh channel and just like watch and like rewatch. A bunch of like really like Charming Charlie the Unicorn, Llamas with Hats.
Oh man, so that side of
Liam
YouTube.
Kyle Sullivan,
Gotcha.
Shoes, just like anything like that, like really like old school memes.
I love that. I love all of that, and again, it just further emphasizes like just how important media can be.
Oh yeah,
and it keeps tying back into my vulnerability of the week of like how important it is to embrace that, right? And because they can just be the only thing that just makes us light up when we're in really, really dark times, can save a life. I know media has saved mine. It was the exact same thing for me of like when I was in my major depressive episode when I was a teenager. It's like, dude, the reason I got up in the morning was because of like Final Fantasy. Yeah. I'm like so for real. And for the longest time, it was something that I was like, oh, I'm not going to tell people that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to tell people a video game is why.
No, I was the same way, except mine was Harvest Moon.
Oh, I love
Where
it.
it's like Harvest Moon, like it makes so much sense too, because like when I was feeling so disconnected from everything and everyone, like of course a game about like connection and community is going to be the thing that like gets me up in the morning and it's like holds me down.
Yeah, and of course a game about mental illness and finding yourself and your identity is going to be what gets me up in the morning. And we just have to embrace that, right?
It is. It's a beautiful thing, honestly. Like, I think that's, like, it speaks so much to the power of art as a whole.
Absolutely.
Where it's, like, I know that it's very, like, I don't know. This is my little, like, soapbox moment where it is, like, you know, people are so quick these days to kind of dismiss art as a secondary thing and that's less important. That's why we see, like, lack of funding in arts programs in public schools. And, like, now with, like, the uptick of AI, people are very reductive about art where they're like, oh, well, anyone can make art now. It's not that important. Like, it really is, though, because it really is, like, the human soul and the human spirit that makes art like pervasive and permeative, where it is able to like really capture someone and hit them in the right spot for where they're at in life and like really take them from like a possibly very, very dark place to somewhere where like they're able to get through the day now.
I love everything about that. You're right. It's like it allows two people to connect without ever having to meet, ever having to talk.
Exactly, yeah.
And to express ourselves so deeply, so vulnerably, right? And to share that with other people and to connect over the things that we love and bond over all that. Oh, it's so powerful. And I'm so glad that you had all those things during that time.
Yeah, likewise. I got to work on a Rune Factory game, which was really, really exciting because that is like the fantasy Harvest Moon. It's made by the same people. And so that was such a full circle moment for me where I was like, I'm able to be like, I get to be like a Harvest Moon romance little character. Like after like, because those games were so very much like such an integral part of my adolescence where it was like, that was what I did. Like, that is what I looked forward to most. Like all day at school was hell because I got like bullied and like ostracized at school and just felt so fish out of water. And then I would go home and that was also a whole other thing where it was like I would have to be like I would take on this huge amount of responsibility where like on top of like, you know, kid responsibilities of like feeling crappy because I was being bullied, I would also have to like, you know, like homework and feeling stupid because I also have like a whole little cocktail of learning disabilities.
Oh.
Not to brag.
Oh boy. We'll chat.
Girly pop learning disabilities. You're welcome, internet. But yeah, so it was like that, but then also like having to take care of my dad and having my dad lash out at me because he was scared and having to take care of my dad still, even though he was being mean to me and still like having to be like, it's not him, it's the illness. Let's just get through it and push through and like try and like still comfort my dad. And then I would just feel like so tired and so exhausted and so in need of an escape that like I would look forward all day to like laying in bed with my Nintendo DS and be like playing Harvest Moon DSQ and being like, go talk to my pretty little anime boys and like pet my pet cow and like make sure that everything was like in perfect order and things like that. And also like, yeah, it was like that. And then reading Percy Jackson, like those are, and College Humor, like those were my essentials for getting through those years.
Yeah. And like when you say essentials, like you mean that in every sense of the word.
I would say that it was more important than food at that point. Like I can't remember what I ate or like how I got through those days, but like the thing I remember most about like my middle school years were like my main sources of joy when I look back at that are Harvest Moon, College Humor, Percy Jackson. Like those were like I could not have gotten through.
Yeah.
And like SNL. Like, yeah, that was my food, water, and air back then.
Again, I totally relate. Just everything you're saying, I'm like, oh yeah, I feel that. That was me with like Zelda and Persona. And
exactly, yeah. Or just sort
stuff.
of like, I didn't know when my next, like, I didn't know when I would feel like okay again, but I knew that I could go home and get a little, like an hour of comfort.
Yeah. And we talked about like the light at the end of the tunnel being like when you finally overcome like that really dark chapter in your life, but that can even be like the mini light in the tunnel, right?
Exactly.
That
where
you can
like,
find every single day. That's just that little bit of something.
It was a sure thing. And that was so comforting when like, I didn't know, there were so many things that were uncertain for me. I didn't know how fast my dad was going to get worse. I didn't know what state my mom would come back from work from. I didn't know if my dad would scream at me that day. I didn't know if my dad would remember me that day. And that was back when he was still like, I was depending on him for rides a lot of the time. And so that was a whole other stressful thing where like I would get out from school and that was when my dad was still driving. And so I never knew if my dad was going to pick me up from school. I didn't know if he was going to remember or if he was going to pick me up and he was going to like start screaming at me in the car or if he would pick me up and we would be driving around for an hour because he couldn't find our house. And so there were so many things that were scary or like if I would just have to like walk home for like an hour to get back to my house. Like there were so many things, but there was always that one like little glimmer of hope, and that was like again being able to go pet my cows, being able to go check College Humor, seeing that there's a new sketch out, being able to escape to Camp Half-Blood, being able like knowing that there was a new episode of SNL that week. Like there was those tiny little things, and it's so necessary,
and it's enough.
It's enough because it's like you never know when things are going to get better. You never know when you're going to come out the other side of this and be like 28 and have your own apartment and pets and like loved ones and suddenly be like, oh, that's in the past. But you know when you can go home and play a little bit of a video game and feel like everything's going to be okay for at least 10 minutes.
That was your sense of like normalcy, right?
That was the control that I felt, yeah.
Well, again, I'm so glad that you had all those things and thank you for sharing so vulnerably, like how excited you are. So tell me a little bit more now about, because you have such a strong relationship to all of those things and how that led you to be now not escaping into those worlds, but being a part of them as a voiceover artist.
It's so cool. Yeah. I mean, I think it just made such a huge impression on me that like it became like engraved in my soul a little bit, especially cartoons. Because that was another thing where like I could depend on being able to escape to like my family's mini CRT TV for at least 30 minutes a night and watching Adventure Time. Or like in high school, I could watch a little bit of Gravity Falls. Or always SpongeBob.
Oh, always.
Always SpongeBob. Because SpongeBob is always on, and I thank God for that. Or it's like
God.
a little bit of like, just a little bit of comfort where you're able to like turn on the TV and find a little bit of escapism in like cable TV. Back when cable was a thing. I aged 40 years by saying that. Amazing.
Hey, I was here for cable.
Okay, amazing. Those worlds became more like familiar and comforting to me than my own. And so I think that like, you know, when you get so familiar with a certain kind of media, it leaves a really strong impression. And so when I eventually like transitioned into voice acting, because acting was always another escape for me. Like I started acting when I was 8 years old, doing like school plays and things like that. And that was another place where I was able to feel safe. And then when I was about 20 or 21 or so, and I kind of like had the epiphany that I could marry those two things that have always made me feel safe and happy, like the world of acting and the world of cartoons, and that I could help, I don't know, like produce something that gave me so much comfort and like hopefully extend that comfort to other people. Like it just, it all just kind of like, I don't know, it felt like all the puzzle pieces came together at the same time.
Yeah.
Where it was like the things that I loved most, like video games and cartoons and comedy, could all fit into the same thing. And then within the world of acting, which I had always felt the most like at home, like it was always something that just like that felt very familiar and natural. And so yeah, it all just kind of like came together at once. And now I am a part of so many franchises that I grew up that were so important to me. Like I'm on Pokemon.
That is so cool.
Oh my God. I remember it was during the pandemic when my first episode of Pokemon came out on Netflix. And that was Pokemon Journeys. I played a little boy named Horace. That was my first role in Pokemon. And I watched the episode, and the pandemic, of course, I don't need to say it, the pandemic was hard on all of us.
It sucked.
It was bad. It was really bad. But I had to move back home for the pandemic because pre-pandemic, I was working full-time at Disneyland. And when the pandemic hit, Disneyland went away. And so I had to move back home with my mom. And so I was in like a room in my mom's house watching my episode of Netflix on my phone and watching like these characters dance across my screen, the thing that I've done my entire life, the world of Pokemon. But suddenly like I was hearing my voice and I burst into tears, like just full body, like sobs when I realized I'm like, I am part of this world.
Do you think,
that like I was a part of this world that like I would escape to so often when I was a little kid, that suddenly like I was a part of it and like I was like helping make it in some small part.
Seriously. And I bet that was such like a full circle moment.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about that.
I mean, it was incredible. I mean, like that when I was like, a little kid playing pretend by myself, LARPing, running around, like that was like the number one game that I would do, is that I had little like play Pokeballs where like there were little plastic things that I got from like KB Toys and Toys R Us, which are now both extinct, which is crazy. Right. But like, yeah, things like that where I would just like run around my backyard and I would be like, go Pikachu, things like that. Like I would just like play Pokemon all by myself. And like, I grew up like that was like what I did. Like I would say those words more than my own name probably, where I would just be like, use Thunderbolt, like do this. And I would just like lay around like daydreaming about like having my own team of Pokemon and things like that. And then to suddenly like, be doing it and having someone pay me for it, I was like, wow.
Now you are actually saying it.
Yeah, it just felt like, it felt very validating for my inner child, I think, where it's like, so often, like my dad was like, he was very sick. And so this was not, I don't put this on him, but he was always kind of confounded by the way that I would play pretend and play. And I don't think he really understood that it was something that I needed. And so sometimes he would be like, you're wasting time. Like, you should go be like doing math homework or like practicing times tables. He's like, you're wasting time. And so it was very validating for like that little girl that like, still lives in my like heart to be like, no, you were practicing for your future job.
That's right. Oh, that is so sweet. And I bet, the works that you're involved in now are having that same impact on people
hope so.
that they had on you.
Yeah.
Have you had any experiences with people who've like shared that it means?
I have, yeah. I mean, especially with the Genshin fandom, where Genshin came out during the pandemic, and it was so many people's escape during a time where we were all trapped inside. They were able to find this world that was so expansive and beautiful and like rich in lore.
Super rich. Yeah.
And so I've had a lot of people come up to me at conventions talking to me. They're like, hey, like your character and this game have been a great source of comfort and escapism for me. And that means more than I can possibly really articulate. Like knowing that I'm able to kind of like pass it, like pay it forward a little bit and like help people through their dark times now. Like how so many artists work together to help me through my dark times when they didn't even know me makes me feel very like fulfilled.
I doubt, as you said, like there's even words to describe that kind of feeling. Oh my gosh, it just had such an impact on you, and to pay that forward. And for the record, I'm so glad you went into voiceover, by the way, because you know how much this means. And that passion, I feel like your fans and the people who play these games and listen to the works that you're in can feel that. You're not just here for a job. You're not just here for a paycheck. Like you really care about these worlds and for sharing these stories to help people, Stories are what made me, I think. Because when we are... I don't know. I mean, it's like just at the most base level, it's like when we don't like our own story, we're able to find something else.
and we're able to live through someone else's experiences for a little bit. Like being caught up in a story and being lost in a story is such a human thing, and it's just so important. And so I love what we do because I think it's just a little bit of hope where, especially nowadays, where there's not a lot of bright spots. But art gives us those tiny little glimmers of hope where we can look to these stories, look to these characters, and think that we can be better than we are. The world can be more than what we are settling for. We can live fantastic, fantastic lives if we're able to just put ourselves aside for a little bit and play a video game or read a book. And then that gives us inspiration to go forward with our own lives and be like, you know what, maybe I can create the magic that I see in this world and bring it into my own.
That's literally like the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Oh my God. That is so beautiful. And something that I believe like so passionately. And one of the reasons like I started this podcast is like, dude, like we freaking need each other and we need art and we find each other through art. We connect with these characters. They connect right back to us.
Yeah.
Like they become our friends in a time when we have none.
Exactly.
And it allows us to both express ourselves and to enjoy arts where other people express themselves. And it's just this beautiful, like, just, it's what humanity is.
Every character I've ever loved or hated or like aspired to be has been a reflection of something that I see in myself or something that I want to see in myself or something that in my world that I don't want to look at, where it's like, that's why the best villains are like, that's why we gravitate towards them, where it's like, we see a piece of our own world within that villain that is so repugnant to us, where like art at its core is just a reflection of our own world and our own psyches. And that's so beautiful. And it's the reason why it's called the humanities, or it's like, you know, it's humans. It's two humans on opposite sides of the world connecting to each other through something.
Absolutely. And it can teach us like so much.
Absolutely.
Like, what was the one that you were saying earlier? I was saying how Final Fantasy taught me about identity and mental health and grief. And you had...
Harvest Moon taught me about like connecting with community, where it's like, it's such a simple little concept where it's literally just about like, you know, living in a tight-knit community and like making your little farm and like, you know, like planting peach seeds and like petting your cow. But like for a little kid who's lonely, it's more than that. It's walking around a town and like seeing all these familiar faces who are happy to talk to you and like finding love and like forging connections, even if it's through like throwing eggs at people and like being like, here's an egg, you're my friend now, where it's like, it's just little things like that, where it's like, it's about connection. And it's why people love Stardew Valley so much too, where it's like that sense of community.
Yeah.
And like, there's so many things in my life that I have processed through a piece of art that I love. I mean, like, another thing, it's like, I feel like it's also why, like, you know, My Little Pony has also stood the test of time.
Stop.
Because friendship is magic. And
I'm
it's
a
like,
friendship is fucking magic.
Friendship is fucking magic, where it's like it's the same thing, where it's like, for people who may not have like a ton of friends, like you see like, you know, like the main six, and like you see like these personalities that you want to, like these personality traits that you would like to see in yourself, or people that you want to see, like personalities that you want to see around you, and it makes you want to be better, and it makes you want to see the world be better. It
and like
gives you
every
hope.
single episode, they're dealing with problems and they're working things out with each other, and there's so many personalities clashing, but it's like they always come out on top, and it's so inspiring.
It's inspiring, and like Adventure Time is amazing too.
Yes.
Like I love Adventure Time, and it's so personal to me because of Marceline and the Ice King. I remember watching the episode Marcy and Simon when I was in high school, and like it was the episode where like they kind of do like the reveal that Ice King used to be Simon, and that, sorry, spoilers, but yeah, like that he used to be Simon, and that he wasn't always this, you know, like over the top personality, and that it was the like crown poisoning his mind. And I remember having that reveal. I was like sitting there. I was just sort of like, okay, now it's time for my little escapism. I'm 14 years old, and I watched that episode. And all of a sudden, like I realized like I had tears streaking down my face because I saw my dad in the Ice King, and I saw me and Marceline, because it was watching a father figure lose his mind and forget his daughter. And I was just like, oh. And it brought me so much comfort knowing that Marceline was on the other side of it. and seeing, like, I don't know, I thought it was really well handled, but like, I don't know if this was purposeful at all, but I saw the Ice King and his entire like corruption storyline as such a wonderful metaphor, or at least it could be seen as paralleled to Alzheimer's, where it's like you start as someone and you have this whole life and you're this complex person, but then this like outside force comes in and just corrupts your mind, and it makes you childlike, and it makes you lose sight of everything that you once saw important to you, and it makes you lash out and someone that's like, you know, not even like a shell of who you used to be. And so like seeing that in like a TV show was so impactful for me, where it was like, whoa. And so like it really helped me process what was going on as I was living through it, where it was like seeing these characters that I loved so much going through it, it made me feel less alone.
Exactly. And to see that realized, like, you know that someone who made that understands that too.
Mm-hmm. Where they were like, this little girl, like, you know, was going through a lot of shit. And like, he was her rock through the entire apocalypse. And suddenly to just like lose that and have her like having to like, you know, stand up on her own 2 feet and like watch as this person who she used to look up to fall away in front of her. Like, it's intense. Wow. But yeah, like art is so important. And it's like the ability to tell you stories and have like them reach people that we can't even like conceptualize. Like, so often when I am in the booth, sometimes I do get tired. I'm a person where like I'm feeling very tired and I'm stressed, and so I'll go to work and I'll like say these lines and I'll just sort of be like focused on doing a really good job. And sometimes I'll totally lose sight of who might be on the other receiving end of those, who might be like consuming this media and being like, that's exactly what I needed to hear today, or like this character is so similar to how I feel sometimes, where it's like it's crazy the way art has that effect. Yeah. We're very fortunate, and I there's not a day that goes by that I always try to like at least remind myself multiple times throughout the day that I'm like, I'm very lucky to be where I'm at.
Well, and we owe it to like our teenage selves too. I always think of 16-year-old Ken is what I call her. In fact, for this podcast, a lot of the time when I'm like really narrowing down what I need to focus on, it's like, what does 16-year-old Ken need? Why does she want to be here? Why does she want to listen to this? What does she need? Because she's that closeted nerd right now that needs connection, that needs to feel validated, that needs to know that she's not alone. And to tell her that it's okay to embrace that sometimes you can find connection through video games.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I do the same thing with like my younger self. It's like it's a really wonderful tool, I think, where when like as adults we often do feel kind of like aimless and directionless, and we kind of do just kind of like feel paralyzed, where we're like, what the hell am I going to eat for dinner? Like, what is the next best thing? Like, what's the next right step to take? Where it's like we can kind of like remove ourselves from the situation and like check in with our younger selves, where I find that to be very useful, where I'm like, okay, well, what decision am I going to make that can make like baby Jenny happy? Like, how can I make her proud? How can I do right by her? It's like I check in with my past self and I check in with my future self too. Because sometimes my past self is like, eat chicken nuggets every night for dinner. And I'm like, okay, well, we can't do that. Let's check in with future Jenny too. And she was like, you gotta have salad too. Where I'm like, okay, right, fiber. And so it's like, yeah, I think it's a very useful tool where we can check in with our younger selves, check in with our future selves too. Where we're like, oh, right, let me do right by my younger self. Let me, like, she's feeling lonely. Let me make sure that I am building the life that she dreamed of, while also not, having kids' cuisine every night for dinner like she probably wanted to.
Damn it.
I know. If I want, I love past Jenny. I love baby Jenny, but also she definitely would be like, eat the kids' cuisine. Eat the kids' cuisine. And I'm like, no, we're 28 now. We're 28 now, and
every once in a while,
health insurance is very expensive.
Forgot about that.
And co-pays are as well. We have to eat broccoli. Please eat a single leafy green.
It's one thing you take away from this episode. Eat the broccoli.
Eat the broccoli. Drink your water.
What do you think baby Jenny would say if she saw you today? We talked about what you would say to her. What would she say to you, do you think?
She'd be so jazzed. Like, I think about that a lot, where like I think She would pee her pants. She would piss her little pants because she'd be so flabbergasted. Where it's like, I think also she would be shocked because we grew up with only dogs. And so I think more than anything, she'd be shocked that I have a cat. She'd be like, you have a cat? But what about dogs? And I was like, sorry, kid. You like cats. Turns out you're more of a cat person. You still like dogs, but you have a son. And his name is Beans. And he's stupid.
And he's so cute.
And he's so stupid. But yeah, it's like, oh my God, she would be blown away. I mean, I think that's like, I saw this one of those like cheesy quotes on Instagram not too long ago where, you know, like you see them, like people like put them against like, you know, a Pinterest picture of like grass or something. But like I am a sucker for those things because I do think that they can sometimes be a good reality check while I get so caught up in like, you know, trying to like get auditions in, get like bills paid, get like logistics of travel figured out and just like keep everything straight in my head, where it's like once in a while I'll be scrolling on Instagram and I'll see something and I'm like, oh my God, that's so right. Where it's like I got so caught up in trying to build a life for myself that I forgot that I had already made some childhood dreams come true.
Ooh,
I know,
that
right?
hits.
Yeah. Where it really hit me like a ton of bricks where I was like, oh my God, like it just made me like kind of like step back when I was like, I have friends. I have a community. Like, I am working in video games and cartoons. Like, I get to make money from acting. Like, I remember, like, being in high school and being, like, so stressed out because all I wanted to do was act. And, like, they kept asking me to do algebra homework.
Algebra homework.
And I was like, I don't want to do algebra. I just want to act all day. And now, like, instead, I was like, I don't want to do auditions. I want to take a nap. And I'm like, but I get to, like, wait, I'm acting for a living. I'm like, that's crazy. Like, I look at the bills that I'm paying and I'm like, this is money that the people give me for doing voices.
And it's so cool.
I make money from acting, where it's like shit like that, where I'm like, well, I mean, like, I just like, sometimes I'll forget. Cause again, like, it's just, life is so stressful sometimes where like, I'll watch the news and I'm like, oh my God. And then like, I'll have to like remind myself, I'm like, hey, remember the good stuff too. Or it's like, oh, right, I'm a Pokemon. It's like, that's all I've ever wanted since I was a kid. It's like, I want to be like, I want to voice some Pokemon. Like, I'm in the Pokemon world and like I voiced 3 Pokemon, which is crazy, where it's like I would run around my living room going like, Charmander, Char. And now I'm like, now I do that for a living and that's my job, where it's like, yeah, I did get so caught up in trying to build like this perfect version of my life that like I did lose sight of the fact that like baby Jenny would be psyched as hell with the life I already have.
I absolutely love that. I want to share mine too, because I went through like a whole journey to get here, because my childhood dream was actually never voice acting. It was dolphin training.
Hell yeah.
I was going to be a dolphin trainer, and I knew that since I was 6 years old. So I moved to San Diego immediately after high school, just by myself with my dogs. And I worked around dolphins for like 3 years. I wasn't like dolphin trainer, but like I basically did that, right? I came here, but there was so much like guilt in the decision to leave that. What led me here was Final Fantasy VII and the main character, Cloud, having this dream to be a soldier. And he leaves his hometown and he doesn't make it. But it's okay because everybody in his life, they didn't care about that. They just cared about who he was as a person. And I remember thinking about that so much when I decided to leave San Diego and come here. Because I was like, but I told everybody I was going to be a dolphin trainer. And what if I'm not a dolphin trainer? Like, I'm a failure. But it's like, dude, that video game showed me the way, and it taught me that lesson.
Yeah, like, you know, they didn't care that he was a soldier. They cared that he was Cloud. And I think that hits home, because I feel like we have our expectations for ourselves, and we have like these goalposts that we're constantly moving, where we're like, I'm not anyone until I do this, until I reach this, until I achieve this, until I have this. Whereas like the people who matter in our lives, they don't see that. They just see us for who we are. We see the person who is kind, the person who is trying, the person who like is smart and funny. Like that is the person that our loved ones see. And I think that's a really good reality check for, it's like, is this dream version of myself getting in the way of appreciating the person I am?
Real quick, guys, we just realized that our camera like messed up, and that's why you haven't seen Jenny's face for like the last, I don't even know how long. But I felt the need to share that because as I usually say, we like to share the behind the scenes with you guys. But we're going to keep on going now. We were just talking about the versions of ourselves that we dream of are different than the versions of ourselves that we are.
Yeah, it's like,
if that makes sense.
We hold ourselves to like this expectation of like who we should be, that we forget to appreciate who we are in the moment.
Exactly.
Where it's like, I often get caught up in this myself where I'm like, oh, I should be booking these kinds of characters and I should have like this much money or I should have this many conventions, that it's sometimes like it takes like my therapist or my mom or like one of my friends to be like, okay, yeah, but let's think about the things that you are already. Like you're a good friend. You're someone who shows up for your cats. Like you're kind. Like you work hard. And I'm like, oh, right. I am those things. And those other things are like, they aren't fundamental in who I am as a person, which is like more important.
Absolutely. And there's so much acceptance that has to come with that. I know that that's something that I'm working on like constantly, is like, how can I accept the me in the now? Sometimes I get so overwhelmed with like wanting to be better and wanting to become this dream version of myself who is amazing, whether that is professionally or personally. And I'll get like caught up on all these like self-help videos and I'll read all these books and I'll take all these classes, but it's like, dude, we can't reach that vision that we have for ourselves without accepting where we are right now.
Where it's like, if you don't, like, because they have to live in synchronicity, you're definitely allowed to hold yourself and be like, this is who I want to be. And I think that's a really good, healthy thing to do. But if it's not living symbiotically or like coexisting is the word I was looking for. If it's not coexisting with you also appreciating the right now, then it's just going to be an impossible goal because otherwise you're just going to always be thinking who I want to be. And even when you reach that person, there's going to still be some other invisible goal that you don't even know yet, that you're never going to be really content with yourself. There's no milestone that you can reach where suddenly your brain's going to be like, okay, now I'm allowed to love myself.
Yeah.
Like I
Seriously.
can speak from experience where like I remember like when I was starting out in this career, like there were so many things where I'm like, okay, well once I get an agent, then I'm allowed to feel proud of myself. Or like once I book a role, then I'm allowed to be proud of myself. Once I join the union, then I'm allowed to be proud of myself. Like once I book this thing, then I'm allowed to be proud of myself. And like the thing is that like I've like definitely like reached those things, but then like what I found is that once I reach those things, my own ambition kind of gets in my way, and it's like, okay, but now this is the next goal, and then I'm like, okay, now I got to work towards that. But it's like, oh no, we have to like take a step back and be like, no, I did it.
Exactly.
I'm enough, and even without those things, I'm enough.
I was just having a conversation with someone the other day of exactly that, especially in voiceover. It's so easy to just be like, oh, yeah, well, I booked this, but I want to get an agent.
What I really want is this.
I have the agent, but now I really want to book this, which is where I'm at right now. And, okay, yeah, well, I booked the thing I wanted to, but now I want to win an award, and now I want to do this, and I want to do that. And even outside of voiceover, it's the exact same thing. Oh, yeah, I graduated college, but now I want to get a job. Well, now I got the job, but now I want to get employee of the month. Okay, well, I got employee of the month, but now I want to get promoted.
Yeah.
Where does it end?
It never ends, and that's the thing. Where it's like you have to make good with yourself as you are, and you're still allowed to have those ambitions and dreams. That's healthy. That's what keeps us motivated. That's what keeps us moving. But it's like you still got to be able to look at yourself and you're like, okay, but even without the career, even without the money, even without everything, like, let's think about like how my friends see me. Like they don't see me as like, oh, I'll be friends with Jenny once she books that role. It's like, no, my friends are just sort of like, no, you show up for me when I'm sick, and like you text me funny memes, and like you make me smile. Like things like that. Like that's what my friends value me for.
Exactly. And
that's what I value you for. Like I'm never just like, oh, Kennedy's great, but like I would like her more if she booked something. I'm like, no, of course not. I'm like, Kennedy's smart. She's driven. She's compassionate. She's like sweet and fun. It's like those are the things that I value. Like I'm never just sort of like, okay, well, Kennedy needs to book more. I'm like, no, I don't give a shit about that.
Well, thank you. And Jenny, you are also very sweet and very kind and just so real and genuine. And thank you for just like for being so incredibly vulnerable with us today. Yeah. And sharing your story and what it means to you. And thank you for sharing your work in voiceover with people. Like you said it yourself, like these worlds that we escape to, they are more than just optional. At times, they can be our only tether to this world, our only light in the tunnel. They can teach us so much. They can connect us with other people They are a representation of who we are as a
Yeah.
species, as humans. So thank you so much for being here. And remember, everyone, we don't have to hide. We have to embrace who we are. All the weird, all the nerdy stuff. Because you're just as cool without the sunglasses.
Yeah.
Okay. As we wrap up here, Jenny, I want to ask you our very last question. It's the question we ask everybody at the end of every single episode. It is the most vulnerable question. And so, my beautiful viewers, I encourage you to pause this video and ask yourselves this question as well. Answer it out loud. I dare you. Jenny, what is your favorite thing about yourself?
Oh. I'm just flashing back to that clip that I saw of John where they were like, you have great hair. And you're like, no.
John, do you want to go first? Do you want to say something nice about yourself?
You have good hair.
Oh, come on. That is such a cop-out. I was not going to take any of
No,
that.
and I'm glad you didn't because there's someone who doesn't appreciate what an extraordinary person they are.
Oh, I was just
Yes.
talking to them two
They're
days
such
ago.
a special person, and they are so hard on themselves.
They are
and
so hard.
They're such a special, wonderful human. I'm so glad that you didn't let them off the hook.
Shout out to John Patnode.
Shout out to John Patnode.
If you have not seen our last episode with John Patnode, please go watch it. It is so good. They are
Sweet,
so special to me.
special, wonderful person.
But enough about John
But enough
Patnode.
about
Jenny,
John
what is
Patnode.
your favorite thing about you? My dear, my love, my sweet, my queen.
I think I love you. I think my favorite thing about myself is the fact that I think it would have been very easy for me to become a jerk throughout my life and become very jaded and cynical because I've been through a lot, and I think it would have been very easy for me to be like, I don't care about anyone else, screw them. But it's like, I am very cynical about the world, where I do acknowledge, I'm like, there's a lot about the world that is very unkind and very weird.
That's true.
But I think despite that, my North Star has always been and will always continue to be that try and approach every situation with kindness and understanding and empathy and patience, because you never really know what someone else is going through. And it's so easy to lose sight of the fact that everyone else is going through their own like struggles and tragedies and like insecurities every single day, where like you piling on top of that doesn't really help anything. And so, yeah, it's like I'm proud of myself for that, and that I think I have a good heart.
I think you have a good heart, too.
Thank you.
That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Jenny, do you have any last thing to say to our beautiful viewers? Any last words of wisdom?
Yeah. If you are in a position to do so, please donate to HFC. It's called Hilarity for Charity. It's a wonderful charity that raises money towards Alzheimer's research and also provides aid to caretakers. And I found out about this charity a few years ago, and it would have made a world of difference to me and my mom if we had been able to apply for a grant or assistance to help a caretaker come out and like help us out. And like it's just been like, it gives a lot of people like a little bit of extra room to breathe, which is just makes a world of difference. So if you're in a position to do so, please donate. If not, just educate yourself on like some of the resources and steps that you can take to improve your own brain health. Because it seems where a lot of research is being found out that there are some like small preventative things that we can do in our everyday lives to keep our brains a little bit healthier to try and prevent Alzheimer's and dementia. And so do that. Drink lots of water. Take a nap if you're able to. I think naps are underrated. And play Harvest Moon Animal Parade.
You heard it here first, folks. The Vulnerable Podcast. If it's one thing you take away,
It's very good.
Eat your broccoli and play
Harvest Moon,
Harvest
Animal
Moon.
Parade, or Tree of Tranquility. They're both very good. They're for the Nintendo Wii. I'm sure you can find a way to play them. They're very good. They're very good.
Embrace who you are, my beautiful, amazing people. Jenny, thank you for showing yourself with us today.
Thank
You're
you for
so
having
incredible.
me.
And I guess that's a wrap.
I guess that's a wrap. Yeah.
Hi there, my beautiful friends. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of The Vulnerable. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, please check out the description for a list of trusted resources that me and my mom, who is a licensed psychologist, came up with. You can like and subscribe, that's all great, but I would love if you could comment and share your story with us, and share this video with a friend who you think might need it. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Great. There's take one.